This module, I would like to go through all you need to know about API 571 Corrosion and Materials Exam Certification. So you can study our first module for free. It comes with a corrosion atlas, 900 flashcards, and 15 sets of mock exam question, 24 months, 24/7 course access and online support. And contact us for any technical general query and access. You can also use this contact form, or can register a free account and use our free exam. So let's go to the course content on module 1 and go through the all you need to know about API 571 certification. In this module, you shall learn about the scoring areas, exam structure, important damage mechanism, pre-qualification, how to register for API 571 exam, API 571 certification, recertification, rescheduling and cost, and exam tips. API 571 is suitable for highly specialized inspectors, corrosion engineers, chemical engineers, and other professionals across the entire petrochemical industry to obtain the API 571 Corrosion and Materials Certification as a validation of their profound knowledge of corrosion processes. API 571 certification will add significant value to your professional credentials, demonstrating to your employers and clients that you have obtained a high level of proficiency and understanding in this important field. The scoring area, there are 110 questions covering many of the 67 damage mechanisms, and now some of them are more important, so we will tell you where to focus on those damage mechanisms. There are 20 of them out of the 67. And the scoring area versus approximate number of questions is critical factors 30, description of damage 20, inspection and monitoring 20 questions, prevention and mitigation 15, affected equipment 10, and affected material is 5. So as you can see, there are not many questions coming from affected material or affected equipment. Errors of morphology 7, and related mechanisms 3. The total question is 110, out of which 100 are scored question and 10 are pre-test or non-scored question, shuffled together, so you should answer all the questions. The pass mark is 70% roughly, and on a minimum of 400, on a scale of maximum 500. So advice we give you is read the API 571 at least 3 times, follow our flashcards, tips and corrosion atlas, take our 15 sets of mock exam honestly and score above 70%. That will increase your chances of passing the exam. This exam is structure. Exam is 3.24 hours, so that is 3 hours 15 minutes or 195 minutes long. You have 106 seconds on average to answer a question, roughly a bit more than 1.5 minutes per question. There are 110 questions, only 100 are scored, the remaining 10 are pre-test, not scored, but you have to answer all the questions because non-scored questions are not marked. All questions are multiple choice, and closed book paper and reference materials are not allowed into the exam. The exam has a set passing scaled score, minimum of 400, on a scale of maximum 500 is required to pass. This is roughly 70%. View the exam tutorial. You can see here on this link or on this link here. It takes you to the exam tutorial of API ICP exam, so you can familiarize yourself with the exam format. The exam tutorial shows how the icons work. You have 10 minutes to read through the tutorial before the exam starts. Important damage mechanism. API 510, 570, 653 exams cover 20 damage mechanisms. Pay special attention to them. There is a concise version of these 20 damage mechanism in module 4. and this includes section 2 terms and definition. It's very important that you're familiar with vocabulary, but a few questions come from here. Amine stress corrosion cracking, atmospheric corrosion, boiler water, brittle fracture, caustic corrosion, stress corrosion cracking, chloride stress corrosion cracking, cooling water corrosion, corrosion under insulation, erosion corrosion, galvanic corrosion, high temperature hydrogen attack, hydrochloric acid corrosion, mechanical fatigue including vibration induced fatigue, microbiologically influenced corrosion, soil corrosion, soil water corrosion, sulfidation, sulfuric acid corrosion, and wet H2S damage. So these are the 20 important damage mechanisms. Let's see if you're qualified to take API 571 exam. If you hold the current API 510, 570 or 653 certification, you automatically qualify to take the API 571 Corrosion and Materials Certification exam. If you do not hold them, then qualification is based on a combination of your level of education and industry experience that you have gained for the past 10 years. Prior to submitting the application, you can look at the table below to determine if you qualify to take the exam. The minimum experience required must be documented in your application, and they would send, you have to provide 2 references. Verify your experience. So if you have a BS degree or bachelor degree, 1 year experience is enough, minimum. If you have a 2-year university degree, it's 2 years experience, high school diploma, 3 years, and no formal education, 5 years, any experience in the petrochemical industry. How to register for API 571 exam? API examination are divided into 2 main groups: core exams, 510, 570, 653, and others. That API 571 is one of them. It's held 3 times a year. Each API certification has a 3 weeks exam window that you should choose from at the time of registration. And once you choose that, that's frozen. You cannot change it. If you want to reschedule it, it's as good as failing the exam. The deadline to get API authorization email after applying for the exam and providing the references and for your experience, and once the references are verified, is almost 2.5 months or 10 weeks prior to the selected test window. To get the API approval in order to sit for a particular test, file the application form by registering with API ICP using this link. Then upload the supporting documents, your qualification and certification, provide 2 references, and pay the fee. For schedule and fees, you can use this link. API shall verify your claimed experience by contacting via email the 2 references you have provided. It is recommended to brief your references or even sit with them when they are verifying it, so there is no discrepancy here. After registering an approval by API, you can select the location, date, and time with a Prometric test center. And Prometric is subcontracted by API to hold a computer-based exam. There are more than 3,000 Prometric test centers across 160 countries worldwide to choose from. All API testing centers operate on a first-come, first-served basis. Therefore, API says that they cannot promise that you will be able to obtain a seat at your preferred test location. So therefore, it's highly recommended that you may schedule your exam immediately after receiving your email authorization notice. If seats not available, try a different date within the same window or choose another location. Please note that during registration with API, you are required to select one of the available 3 weeks time window. Once the time window is selected, you cannot change it, which means you can only attempt the exam within the selected 3 weeks window unless you decide to reschedule and pay the fees, which is as good as failing the exam. Remember, no show and failing to book a seat or even inability to book a seat at your preferred test center is as good as failing the exam itself. If you want to know more, please use this link, frequently asked question, or you can always use our WhatsApp line if you have any question, and we shall be happy to answer. Now, currently, due to COVID-19, you can attempt the exam from the comfort of your home or office. This is called remote proctoring or remote exam. To know more, please click on this link. Although the deadline to get the Your application is 2.5 months for the 3 weeks exam window, but because of this first come first serve basis of Prometric, we recommend that you get it 3 to 4 months at least before the exam window. So, and the minute you receive the authorization, book the slot, you can always change it up to a month before the exam, the date and the test center for free, and 5 to 29 days before the exam window for a fee of $70. API gives each candidate 12 months or 4 consecutive exams to pass an exam beginning from the first scheduled test window. So this means you can do to 4 times you can attend. If you cannot pass the exam within a year from your initial exam test window, or your 4 consecutive exams, whichever comes earlier, or fail to schedule the exam, no show up, then you have to apply all over again and pay the full fees. But if you fail the initial exam and you want to reschedule, the rescheduling fee is $150. Or for any reason you cannot attend on that 3 weeks exam window you selected at the time of your application. After requesting for rescheduling and paying the fees, you normally receive the email authorization within a day 2, and then you can book your test. One of our trainees, as an example, he applied 7 months before he got the email authorization, but then only 2 months before the exam he tried to book a slot with Prometric, and he couldn't find close to him the one which was in London, so he had to fly to Amsterdam Prometric Test Center to attend the exam. So avoid this trouble, please. It's strongly recommended that you book your place as soon as you receive the API authorization notice. API certification, recertification, rescheduling, and cost. So initial certification is valid for 3 years, and the initial exam is $365. After 3 years, you need to apply for recertification and demonstrating that you did such inspection for 20% of the time. And recertification costs $260. You can apply for recertification 90 days before the expiry of your certificate, and 90 days after that. They call it grace period, subject to late application fee of $150 if you apply after the expiry of your certificate. That's in addition to $260 of certification cost. If after 90 days you have not still the grace period, you have not still applied, and then you change your mind, you want to recertify it, then you have to submit a fresh application, pay the full fees, and attend the full exam. After every 6 years, there would be a quiz that would address the changes in API 571 over the past 6 years, or the latest revision that has been done at that time. And you can do this quiz online. It's 25 questions. It can be interrupted up to 3 times, and you can do it within 4 hours, and twice you can attempt it. If you fail both the times, then you have to apply all over again and end the full exam. So what should you expect on exam day? Make sure you reach the Prometric Test Center 15 minutes, or if you are doing remote proctoring, at least 15 minutes to half an hour before the exam schedule time, so you go through the security check. If you reach the test center 15 minutes after the scheduled exam time, they may refuse to admit you. So before they admit you, they will check your photographic ID. On remote proctoring, that's done through your camera on your laptop, and the invigilator is communicating with you and looking, so you have to hold your ID in front of the camera. When in person, you have to produce your government issued photo ID, and it should be valid. Our candidates actually had a driving license, but it was expired, so they refused to admit him. He returned back half an hour later, and unfortunately they said your business too late. So as a result, he had to pay the reschedule fee for $653 and attempted some 6 months later. So it's just not worth it to that you are refused for the ID issue. So it should be government issued photo ID. It should be in Latin. It should have your picture and your signature, and it should be valid. It's very important. As a plan B, we recommend that you carry 2 of them, say a driving license and a passport, a military ID, or anything that is issued by government. And so it's just not worth it that for an ID issue, all your time and effort and your money is wasted. You cannot carry anything with you except a bottle of water inside the exam room. No ornaments allowed except a wedding ring. If you're doing in person, they will provide you with a couple of papers and a pencil and a pocket calculator. And that's not available during the remote proctoring, the pencil and paper, obviously. So you have to make a note, like on a calculator on your desktop, if you want to mention a question number or anything. Practically, there's more restriction when you do remote proctoring. That's all about it. If you are doing remote proctoring, so after ID verification and you start the exam, you're not allowed to leave the room without the invigilator's permission. He keeps watching you, he or she. You have to turn the laptop around so they can see that there is nobody in the room, there is nothing on table, nobody is allowed to enter the room. You are not allowed to leave the room without their permission. If you want to leave the room, or if you are in test center, you want to leave the room to drink water or use the toilet, or for any other reason, you have to sign out, check out, and then you should, when you come back, you need to sign in, check in, and do an ID verification again. So all this time is coming off your allocated time. After completion of the exam, you shall receive an email notifying whether you have passed or failed. Your preliminary exam result may be preliminary pass, marginal result, too close to call, or a preliminary fail. That's because they use the scaling, so they want to standardize the level of difficulty. So the pass mark and particular exam might be 69, 70 or 71%, but roughly it's around 70% you have to answer. You shall receive a confirmed score up to 8 weeks after the last day of 3 weeks examination window, sometimes sooner. It takes another 6 to 8 weeks after receipt of confirmed score of the certification and the wallet card to arrive by post. But when you receive the confirmed score, and if you've passed, you can always download and print your wallet card and certificate from your account that you have registered with API. Pass mark is 70%, no negative marking applies, so answer all the question. At the end, click the review all button, or at least review the flagged off question. So anything that you are in doubt, you can check it once again and the remaining time, and choose the best question to the best of your knowledge. You can challenge any question by writing on his comment sheet, but please note that the clock keeps running, so you shall be spending the time to filling the comment sheet from your allocated examination time. So after the tutorial, or you've gone through that we described, and the tutorial tells you how the buttons work, the flagged off button, how to answer the question, how to review all the flagged off question, or all the question, or unattempted question, and there is a computer icon, there is a remaining time, the progress bar chart that shows on the top. So all this is in the tutorial, and if you end the session, or after 10 minutes, automatically your exam starts. And remember that once you leave the room, you have to do checkout, sign out, and then check in and sign in and do the ID verification check. So sitting for exam can be stressful. Try to have enough sleep the night before. On the exam day, just peruse through the important parts or our flashcards. and charts and figures just for a couple of hours tops. Let your brain rest. You need to be alert and full of energy. Remember, your exam is not concluded until your time is up, or when you press the end exam or finish section button. They will also ask you for confirmation so that you have not pressed it by accident. Then make absolutely sure that you answer all the questions, especially allow 15-20 minutes to review the flagged up question. There is a flagged up question in Prometric website that you can click here, and most of the usual questions asked are answered here. There is also a tutorial that you can click here, and it takes you to API ICP tutorial and tells you how the button works. This is maximum 10 minutes. Remember that you can flag up question. You can also right click the answers to eliminate. Just keep the mouse on the answer and then right click, and it will tell you, it will strike it off. So you can zoom in on the possible right answers. The clock does not stop for any reason once you start the test. The allocated time seems to be enough to answer all the questions as well as reviewing them, provided you use them wisely, your time allocated. There are some exam tips here. I will bring it in other module, but you can also see it here. Some common sense actually, and some useful information. So feel free to go through them. And if you have any question, please send us a WhatsApp message, and we strive to answer it within minutes during the working hours. Thank you, and see you at the next module.